Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's Shakti Shot. Today we've got Deepa Kartha on, and I can't wait for Deepa to talk to us a little bit about what she does best. My name is Popi. You may have seen me in a previous episode. I own the Agile Gardener. We do Agile consulting. Also own STEM Kids NC and After School Brilliance, where we coach young children. And I also am the founder of a nonprofit called Teach, Create, Grow. But enough about me. I want to talk about Deepa. Deepa is a tremendous leader. I've been very lucky to have seen Deepa in action. She's had some incredible impact in a number of organizations. And she has managed a number of groups and a number of individuals. And she is the right person to talk to about team engagement. That's our topic for today. Deepa, why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good, Popi. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Great to be with you today. Thank you for having me on ShaktiShots. So as you guys probably know, my name is Deepa. I am the founder and CEO of Journeys from Zenda, a web and mobile platform. It is all about helping organizations act as one. Before I started my entrepreneurship journey, I worked in banks, really, technology within large banks, large teams, global teams, big initiatives, the usual, the works, right? And I worked with Popi there as well. So team engagement. Team engagement is a topic that is very, very near and dear to my heart. Because, as I was working with teams, it could be my own teams or virtual teams, the one thing that was very important to me from the get-go was, while we were doing all of these big initiatives, how do you make sure that people are engaged? And when I say engaged, I don't mean, hey, you do this survey and you get the decent result in the survey, because that's too late, right? Because, everything is done. And by the time it gets to that, it's way too late. So my focus is really all about how do you make sure that people are engaged during, like every single day, so that they know what is happening, they feel part of it, they feel the ownership and all of that stuff. So that has been my focus. And that is the reason why I started my company as well. So now, Popi, I'm just going to share a couple of things on my screen. It kind of talks about the reality of the situation where we are in right now, not just because of COVID, but just because of the fact that, this is the reality of the digital age, where we have too much information and too much inputs that are coming in. So if you're okay, I'm just going to share my screen quickly.
Absolutely. And while you're doing that, Deepa, I just want to share with the audience that I have seen Deepa engage individuals, large numbers of in the hundreds, by asking them some simple questions like, what is it that you want to focus on? Like very simple questions. I saw you get people excited about the kind of learnings that they wanted to have in their careers and where they aspire to be. So you just have a great handle on how to bring people together. And I think you have empathy as well, which makes it, like a fantastic way, to kind of package it all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Popi. I think, as I was mentioning, I think that is something that is very important. It's been always important to me because, it is at the end of the day, when I started my career, I'm a computer science graduate, right? Computer science major. So when I started my career, it is all about technology, and then in a little bit, I realized it's not just technology. We need to have the right processes. And then finally, I realized, no, it's really all about the people, because without people, forget the process and forget the technology. So it is, at the end of the day, if you have the right people and if they are aligned well, we can do miracles. We can do a lot of great stuff, right? Absolutely. And we are seeing that happening, every day, especially now. So the reason why engagement is hard is because one of the reasons why engagement is hard and leaders find it very difficult to get people's attention is, it's not difficult to guess. It is just too many things that people have going on. It's hard to get people to focus on a goal, right? Because again, they could have competing priorities, but because you would, I remember we used to say wildly important goals, or, I forget, there was another one where, again, it's all about, we're supposed to have only maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 important goals.
Right.
But the reality is, think of the amount of email that we get, the amount of messages we get in our phone, right? there are too many things that are happening, too many competing priorities, right?
Goal competition.
Right? I mean, it is
Right.
really that. And then to see all of these goals, we have so many systems and processes. Just imagine the amount of beeps that you're going to get on your phone. Right? I mean, if you just keep scrolling down, you'll see the amount of systems that we use, right?
Right.
And then plus forget now outside distractions. Whether it's social media, whether it's your family, and whether it's just noise from the regular media, there are just too many distractions.
Yep.
And then when you cannot see people face to face, now everybody's in the same boat now because everybody's kind of working from home. But even when you're not doing that, you're still talking to people that are all over the place, right? And then you're dealing with constant change. I mean, we used to say this all the time, right? But the only thing that is constant is change, right? You have to deal with the fact that there will be something that is going to change. It's like the weather in Chicago. You don't like it? Wait for 2 hours. It will change.
It's going to change.
Right? That's what it is. So it results in what I call, it's a technical term, it's like a serious brain overload is
Right.
what it is. And what you are doing as a leader is you're competing with the brain overload that is in your people's brains. That is what you're competing with. And you are going to lose if you try to do that, right? So now, what do you need to do to get something from, hey, let us all get together and do something, and to get to the results? It is not simply, hey, you have the vision, you have actions, you have results. There is all these things that is in the middle, right? You have, recognition, you have feedback, you have accountability, you have communication, you have collaboration. There is all these pieces that kind of stay together that really make all of these things happen. I mean, and that is so the answer is, it is not simple. It is actually very complicated, right? And that is the reason why leaders find it very difficult to navigate through all of these systems, all of these priorities to get people's attention, to be able to engage them. Now the question is, what is the answer for that, right? If you have to engage them, but if we have all of these competing priorities, how do you do that? And the answer really is a concept that I'm calling as crowd solving. So crowd solving, right? So basically what it is that the first part of it is always there. I mean, Popi, you talked about it. You have to align everybody to the same goal. I mean, you've heard this example from moon mission, right? It's like everybody in NASA knew that their mission was to get to the moon. There was no question about that. So you have to align everybody on the same vision. And that could be done in various ways. So it could be like having conversations, or town halls, or making sure that you keep bringing it up over and over again. So make sure that everybody is aligned. Then also make sure that people don't just know about it, understand their perspectives, so that they're like, hey, this is my vision. Do they believe that it's their vision as well? And if not, why? Because, if you have to understand what people's perspectives are, because you cannot say, hey, it is my way or the highway, and this is what you're going to do just because, right? I mean, you do have to understand what people are saying, get their perspectives and get their inputs. That is a big piece of it. And so the whole listening aspect of it is a big piece of it. I remember one of the coaches at Capital One used to say, hey, it is not about what they say, it is about what they don't say. Right? I mean, it is like such a big aha moment for me when I heard that. I'm like, oh yeah, because you could just talk, and just because there is silence doesn't mean that everybody is agreeing. I mean, you have to listen to what people are not saying. You've seen that, right, Popi?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Drawing out the voices in people takes talent to be able to make people feel comfortable enough to share what it is that's going on. And you bring up a really valid point, that you've got to have an objective, a big, audacious goal that everybody rallies around. Because if you don't have that as a leader, then people go dispersed in many different directions. So how do you use crowd solving, Deepa? I'm very curious. You've piqued my interest.
The crowd solving, so you need to do all of these pieces that I talked about up front, right? The whole alignment and making sure that everybody's on the same page. And then after that, I'm not sure if you tried pushing a rock up a hill, metaphorically, right? Yeah. I mean, you're trying to do something by yourself and you're pushing that rock up a hill. There's only so much you can go. So you really need, and if a leader is trying to do that, which is I'm in front, I'm the leader, and follow me kind of thing, there's only so much you can go. So once you have everybody's buy-in and once everybody's bought into the vision, what you really need to do is to set up the structure where it is easy for people to participate, easy for people to kind of share what they're doing, and then really kind of lay out the framework and let people actually rise up and help, kind of act as owners and solve the problem. So as a leader, there might be specific things that you do, but that let your people lead, where you're actually letting the crowd, again, you're not telling the crowd, go do anything that you want. It's more of, here is a vision, everybody's agreeing. So now it is up to you to actually come up with some solutions, and I'm going to give you the permission, or you are going to give yourself the permission to go do it. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to blame you if things go wrong, right? So you need to kind of create an environment where you're letting people solve it, and create an environment of trust where you are not going to say, oh, you did this, you made the mistake, bad. Because the minute you do that, then that is the end of creativity, and that is the end of innovation right there, right? People are not going to be, right?
Every successful company, if you look at its foundations, they always have a foundation of trust, and that is initiated by the leadership team. And then there's usually a group of individuals that are very ground up and very grassroots, and they permeate, that sort of culture permeates throughout the organization. So very interesting, and very much aligned with the whole servant leadership concept that we read so much about. Yeah.
Absolutely. The servant leadership from a leader's perspective, and then so you're kind of letting people kind of lead. And so there is this concept in marketing. It's interesting how all of these things are kind of connected together, right? Yeah. So there is this concept in marketing called early adopters, right? So you're not going to be able to convince everybody to do everything all at once, but you are going to find those leaders within the groups who are the early adopters, who are the early leaders. So at the point of time, once you identify them, it's really let them kind of elevate them and let them convince their peers, rather than the leader trying to convince hundreds of people. It is so much more easier if 20 people are trying to convince hundreds of people versus one person trying to convince hundreds of people.
Very well said, and very intuitive. Deepa, I wonder, do you have any examples that you can share? I know currently you have a number of teams that are in different locations around the world. Perhaps you can share how you've used crowd solving in the recent past to.
Absolutely, and I can there are complicated examples, but let me show you a simple example, right? A really fun example. So I have a team in India, and they are working from home. Everybody's working from home now. So now, because we've been using, our productivity tools and all that, using journeys, our productivity was not impacted at all. But one of the things that I did notice was the team morale was a little different, because now they don't have that camaraderie anymore, right? The jokes back and forth and sharing what happened at home kind of thing, they don't have that anymore. So we actually created something called work from home in the time of Corona. So all it has is, just post a picture that represents something interesting at your house, and then challenge everybody to do the same thing. So all we did was just set that up and said, okay, now you guys do the thing. It is kind of interesting because we had a lot of interesting challenges where, you have all of these, what is a diagonal coffee challenge? It is like hey, here is a coffee where the coffee and the milk are separate, or the other way around, I don't remember. And then somebody posted that, and they're like, hey, you guys, everybody do the challenge. So now people are just, people got really into it. They're like, they're posting pictures and asking questions and all of that.
Fantastic.
And they're not doing this during work time, but, this is something that they're using as a way to kind of, create that sense of camaraderie and bonding with, even though it's not the common purpose, it is the common circumstance.
Regardless.
Which is everybody's actually working from home. So this is just a fun example of, a fun and easy example, which has been very effective for us. Because now I'm not the one who's worried about, hey, is everybody engaged? They themselves are helping bring each other's morale up.
That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. Simple,
effective,
and self-organizing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
love it, Deepa. I love it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us here today?
I think this was it. I think this was, to answer your question of, the secret sauce for team engagement. We have systems typically for individual engagement, right? Your typical HR systems, salaries, bonuses, performance management. It's typically for individual engagement. Team engagement typically happens with events. Now, in the absence of events, how can you do some of these things virtually? It's really by creating that environment and creating the structure so that everybody can participate, but creating a culture so that people feel comfortable participating. And when they do participate, if the leaders engage, that makes the engagement shoot right back up. Because if nobody's paying attention, then that won't be good either. If the leaders pay a little bit of attention, you can see how much the engagement changes.
That is fantastic. That's really fantastic. And I know that we can use the Journeys app to track some of that engagement. So at some point, if anybody's interested, I really encourage you to reach out to Deepa and get a demo, because I know we use it for a number of our teams. It's just a fantastic tool, and it's exciting, and it's gamified, and there's leaderboards, and it feels like you're playing a video game, even if you're in your 40s and 50s. It's kind of fun and exciting. So that was our Shakti shot for the day, all about team engagement. So our challenge to you, everybody who's watching, is how are you going to crowd solve? We'd love to hear how you have been or how you will crowd solve here in the near future. Thank you very much, and thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you, Popi. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.